Hi guys, sorry about that. Sorry for the delay. I was just escorting Nads out of the door. She was just running late. Many a day they've been here. How are we all? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's afraid it's just me. It's Thursday morning. For our news digest, how are we all? Cumbria Mamsu, Belinda Adams, April Hill, Jenny Allenby. Hello, Leo, Nicholas Sinnott, Samantha Cableen. Morning, my nan is in hospital with COVID. Oh no, my poor granddad has to self-isolate, no symptoms. We live in Brighton. Nearest test we could get him is Manchester. Good God, Chelsea girl, Victoria Bayliss, Jill Taylor. You're in bed, it's your birthday, you've had a tonsillectomy. Oh, at 49, I live in Spain, but I'm from Carlisle, Cumbria, where my twin bro is. Haven't seen family since. Merry Christmas. Happy birthday, Jill Taylor, for today. Faith Goodman, good morning. Watching Boris in front of the select committee, filmed yesterday. Crumbs were in a mess. Yeah. Denise Welsh, are you on here? Morning. Nicola Randall, Teresa Davidson, Shirley Finlayson, Lorraine Eads, Nikki Macro, Becca Mack, Claire Ross Reed, Jackie Vellino, Ross Donnelly. Is it warm in here? Morning. Morning, everyone. Morning, 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 morning. How are we all? So, Philip Thomas Crook, no lockdown up here. Well, the headlines would have you think that we're going into all sorts of bloody lockdown in the northeast. So lockdown coming for northeast as concern grows over infections up there. Now, I don't know if anyone's just seen recently, the reason Chris Whitty just crawled onto our headlines is that apparently the rumour mill, or someone has suggested coming out of Sage, is that Chris Whitty is lobbying for a 2-week national lockdown because he believes that the true coronavirus cases could be 38,000 a day. Now, this headline might gain traction today, but a lot of could-bes, a lot of possibles, a lot of maybes. So Professor Chris Whitty is reportedly pushing, so no one can confirm that, amid fears, they're not reality, that coronaviruses could be as high as 38,000. It's not confirmed. So this comes from Anthony Costello, who sits on the SAGE panel. But when ministers, obviously you can't trust ministers. I mean, they say whatever they need the news flow to be. But, you know, when challenged, a couple of ministers I've seen on TV asked about this national lockdown claims, they're saying, no, haven't heard anything about it. But the rumour mill is that Chris Whitty is lobbying for a 2-week lockdown. It's Karen R. Who thinks Chris Whitty is right? Nicholas Sinnott, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nicholas Sinnott. We love you. Happy birthday to you. Hope you have a lovely day, Nicola. Hope you have a lovely day. Yes or no? Is Chris Whitty correct? If this is true, do you think it's the right thing to do? A 2-week lockdown? I mean, I wonder whether you could enact. I mean, I suppose the biggest problem is going to be for all the businesses. I mean, lots of schools, we talked about this yesterday, lots of schools, increasing numbers of headmasters are saying it's untenable and incredibly difficult to keep their schools open because of the testing lag. The government have said that they're going to prioritise testing for certain sectors, but given their track record, I'm fascinated to see whether this will happen or not. Kelly Davis, I live in Darlington in the northeast. Hello to Darlington, I have filmed there. Our MP has just announced today that we won't be going into lockdown as fall in diff LA. So is there a lockdown? Isn't there a lockdown? What is a lockdown? What is the definition of a lockdown now? It looks like the news gatherers are using the term in a more sort of fluid way, which is why also, you know, there is talk, and it's on the front of one of the papers today, I think the Mail, is it, or the Times, talk about potential curfews for pubs and restaurants. Let me ask you this question. Do you think 10 p.m. curfews for pubs and restaurants is a good idea? Yes or no? I'll read a few comments out as I wait for you all to answer. I don't see the point of curfews, Anastasia Alexander. I suppose the idea behind a curfew is that the longer you're in a pub or a restaurant, the more drunk you're going to get. Do you know what I mean? And the more people are going to be out and the later it is, I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily know that that stacks up. I'd have thought the busiest time in most pubs and places would be between 6 and 8 and 9, wouldn't it? The science is there, Dr. Natalie, good on Chris Whitty. I mean, I think Chris Whitty has to come from a perspective where he's not thinking about the economics. I mean, I guess he does have to think about the economics when it has an impact. I mean, he was the one who was saying a long time ago about the mental health ramifications and the physical ramifications of being in lockdown. But I suppose, bearing that in mind, if he is of the sense or the feeling that a 2-week lockdown is sensible, it goes back to this thing, I suppose, doesn't it? If we're not being told everything, why aren't we? Because by being told everything, we can form a stronger opinion on what the right and wrong thing to do is. And then I begin to wonder whether the government are purposely obfuscating the facts, the science, the statistics, the numbers, in order to keep it murky and opaque, so that when, like Boris Johnson said in the Select Committee yesterday, yes, there'll be a review into how we dealt with it, but not yet. When that comes, it's all a bit imprecise. Do you know what I mean? Do you think they're keeping things imprecise so that when we go back to analyse all the decisions that were made, not too much can be pinned down? Does anyone think that? Kelly Davis, Middlesbrough in the North East has seen high increases and are on watch lists, but will not be included in the North East lockdown. Instead, they're allowing a 1,000-group football match. No sense. Well, you see, again, I mean, I don't necessarily think this is an official lockdown. I don't think like the country is saying, right, North East, we're going into lockdown. I just think lockdown measures are being implemented in different areas, aren't they? Kim Long, daughter was sent home from school yesterday with a cough. Now her dad has had to source a test and she has to stay there because I'm isolating now pre-op, so who knows when I can see her next. Oh God, I see, so you've separated from your partner. Anastasia Alexander, pubs and restaurants aren't the problem. It's schools, offices and public transport. So sick of young people blaming. Our figures are higher now because before only hospitalised cases got tested. Well, I have to say this. I mean, I've been trotting out the line quite a lot that I think that the reason the number of cases is going up is because we're testing more. But then it would seem that we're not testing as many as we should. You see what I mean? Ava Greenall, they don't want us to have an opinion. They need us to conform, no questions asked and no accountability. I don't think it's like a big brother thing, but I do think there's an element of that in there. Karen R. Mark, you're right. They're keeping the figures murky deliberately so they don't have to shut down the economy. It's all about money. I think you're right. I mean, I think, you know, on the one hand, you could say, oh, it's all about money for the rich, but it is also about money for the working man and woman, isn't it? Louise Jones, to be honest, I think nothing will help. Look how strict Spain were. They were a lot more strict than Britain, and they are really bad. No matter what we do, we are going to have to ride this out. That is another reason. I mean, that's another reason that Nadia keeps sort of pulling up the Sweden idea. You know, I never felt that Sweden or Jersey are good parallels because they just don't have the population concentration or overpopulation that we have. I think London's a good example where the exposure, or isn't it something, must have gone up now. It was 17% of people are likely to have had the virus. That's nearly 1 in 5. You know, what I never understand with herd immunity is, yes, for the herd, it's good, but is it not still bad for those who get it? Do you know what I mean? Ibiza bad now. Oh, right. Ibiza bad now. Mandy Dennis, army in. Wow, okay. Brenda McGee, hi Mark, just a mind drain, exhausting ride. Yeah, I mean, I posted, if you check out my, yesterday I just posted a sort of, you know, a moment of mental kaleidoscopic madness when I just considered the time scale of everything this year. And if you go to Mark_Adderley, that's my Instagram. And a lot of you kind of reached out on the back of that. It has been a complete clusterfuck. Even last night's vlog, I was editing it and I trimmed it. In the end, I trimmed a lot of stuff out because we were much more down than we were in that. But in the vlog last night, we all hit those moments, don't we, where you sort of, oh, come on. And I'm not even necessarily worried about, you know, if there was a 2-week lockdown, boom, let's get on with it, let's do it, you know. But I'm just a bit bored. It's like last night, I felt like a dancer. I had a huge desire to put on dancing shoes and just go out. And I looked at Naz, I said, I need something to stimulate me culturally that isn't just a TV show or a film or, you know, radio or something like that. I want to go and see a show. I want to be in restaurants where people are kicking back. I didn't want to drink, but I thought I want to be in a pub. I just want to hear the hubbub of pubs and jukeboxes and, oh my God, I sound like something from the art. Do you know what I mean? I just thought I want to go to galleries where you're not having to sort of like walk along the walls. I want to see a play. I want to see mad crackpot actors doing strange performances on the South Bank. I want to, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I was in a BBC commissioning briefing and we were all on Zoom again in another webinar. It was horrible. It was horrible. You know, it's just horrible. Jenny Allenby, Dream of Theatres. Yeah, I mean, you know, a few theatres are opening again. I saw an image again of Ralph Fiennes as doing a one-man show, but unfortunately he's doing a one-man show about the bloody coronavirus. I don't want to see, I really want some escapism. Do you know what I mean? Kay Moore, it's not just about wanting it how it was, because there are so many elements to how things had changed that, you know, I like the fact that, as you know, a vast number of humans are querying the narrative that we accept on a daily basis. Do you know what I mean? The idea, you know, just the simple idea. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people go, whoa, what do you want everyone who works in Pret to be out of work? No, but usually they're people who are moaning about migrants coming and taking low-paid jobs, because a lot of people who work in the Pret-a-Manger's in London are, you know, foreign students or migrants or people who've just recently travelled to the country. And very rarely are you served by an English person. That's not criticism. What I'm saying is that the very people who keep saying, oh yeah, but you're kind of wanting all that, these sandwich bars, these sandwich companies have expanded too fast. And, you know, if it spreads the wealth back out into the suburbs in a more affordable manner, meaning that people don't have to spend ludicrous amounts of money on travel and transport, yes, it presents a problem for the transport sector, but this might just be a problem that the government needs to steer the nation through, because actually people have realised that their lives, you know, that a huge amount of the expenditure in their lives was unnecessary. That's the simple thing. A huge amount of what we spent money on was unnecessary. And why is that a bad thing to say or realise? And why are we then going to be guilt-tripped into not spending that money? You know, every day, all the time, people are sadly losing jobs, or industries are having to reshift or you know, when the head of Pret said we've lost 10 years of growth in 6 months, maybe they didn't need to have grown to the point where there are 16 Prets on one road. Go down the Strand, there's about 5. Do you know what I mean? It's relativity. Otherwise, the notion of this kind of culture is that it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's got to be a tipping point. There's got to be a point where you can't have more Pret-a-Mangers. Do you know what I mean? There has to come a point where we've got enough Pret-a-fucking-Mangers. And if I have the Pret-a-fucking-Manger argument given to me again, it's not about saying you want people who work in Pret-a-Manger not to have work. It's about, unless we are, have we all been drugged? Have we been drugged into just becoming zombies that trot across London Bridge like T.S. Eliot wrote years ago? Are we? No, of course we're not. And I think it's not about ripping the whole rule book up and changing, you know, I'm not in for fucking revolutions and all that kind of stuff. I am in for just questioning the very edges of what we all do every day, just for a minute. Oh, makes me so frustrated. Julie Everts, it's not if you can save money, it's a bonus. There's 2 in one airport, Pret. I know what you mean. We can only have 1 Pret in Wales. I wish we had more. Well, take the ones that are there and move them around a bit. Redistribute the wealth. This is it. Redistribute the wealth. You know, it's like, you know, we have a very vibrant sort of high street in Norwood. Pop one there. It's not about removing them. Anyway, sorry, I don't know why I've gone off on that. School's on the brink because lots of teachers are having to not go into school, and lots of circumstantial kind of reports coming from schools. We know quite a few people in schools. A whole year group in a a whole year group. I'm not going to name the school, but in a school, a very well-known private school, has had to be sent home. They're not at school. It's becoming unworkable. It's already becoming unworkable. And it's not necessarily unworkable simply because everyone's returned to school. We recognise that had to happen. It's unworkable because the government is not delivering on the testing. NIFAC, what are local lockdowns meant to achieve? It makes no difference. My daughter's gone to uni in Manchester and said it's no different to home. I agree. Oh, Sophie Jane Matilda, thank you. You know, in The Wasteland, when he talks about everyone walking across London Bridge like the Walking Dead. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. The mental health effects of this virus are going to be so awful, Gabrielle. Yeah, I think there's going to be two different, I mean, we've talked a lot about this. I haven't done a mental health chat, sorry, it is coming. But there are two elements to this. There's the mental health assault of just dealing with it. You know, everyone's like, oh, I feel down, I feel this. You go to our vlog, you'll see it in action in me and Nadia. Kind of what I call standard, normal, mental health issues with a crisis. And then there's the longer term, hidden mental health, sublimated, pushed down mental health shit that's going to just pop up like a huge zit further down the way. And that part of things is what really worries me, because, as I've said many times, there's going to be no impetus, no interest, no desire to chronicle, chart, or monitor what that is. I mean, here's a question, and it's a deceptively simple question. Emiliana Franzen, you are a punk at heart because you know the system is fucked. The system is skew whiff. It doesn't take a genius to work out that if you keep, it's like when you look at companies getting bigger and bigger, you look at it and you think there has to come a point where you can't get any bigger. There has to be. You have to settle for a sort of happy median, don't you? You sort of go, okay, well, this is where we get to. What was I saying just before that? I can't remember. Anyone got, what was my thought before I went off on the punk analysis? So yeah, I do think there are just two different sort of mental health crises, and I think there's no interest in, there'll be no interest, mental health, yeah, there'll be no interest in charting where it pops. Oh yeah, this is the question I want to ask. Let me ask this question. Now we've entered COVID land, now we're in COVID land, are we ever going to have a day where the number of people, do you think, I mean, like, let's say 2 years, are we ever going to have a day where we don't have the number of people dying from COVID? Because for as long as we simply publish the fact, if we can publish that one died and that's newsworthy, is it always going to be newsworthy? Is it always going to be the headline that trumps every other health story? Because if it does, it means we will never get on top of the other crises, health crises, that evolve out of this. Are we, you know, it's that thing, not seeing the wood for the trees. You know, it's like, are we going to be so fixated on this little germ here, which is a killer germ, let's not diminish it, but on this one germ, that 60 zillion other things that impact the human being get ignored? COVID land. Yeah, imagine the theme park. You get in a sort of spiky cell and you fly round. And then, you know, when you used to go through the tunnel of love, there's a huge mouth and it's Chris Whitty. And then you go through a really bumbly bit and it's Boris's bumbling. You know, at what point will the news gathering services give up on it? You know, we were watching Trump give one of his remarkable live talks last night. I mean, remarkable, where he essentially said the head of the CDC had misheard a question, didn't understand a question, had answered the question incorrectly. And, you know, I mean, and the whole election now pivots around the two contenders' attitudes to masks. I mean, we've got to Boris's bum. Man, God almighty, that's a horrendous thought, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, where will the news flow? Because I keep thinking, oh, well, you know, the American election will take us off this. But no, the American election is about COVID. Brexit will take us off this. Well, I think in many regards, someone said yesterday that perhaps this is all cover for Brexit to be an absolute cluster mess. When you vote for a circus, says Anne Murray, you will always get clowns. Yeah. Keris Entwistle, how are you, my darling? How much anxiety do we think there is with kids or OCD because of all the measures taken and new adults talking? What happens to support well-being when things change? Agree. I think one of our Confessions of a Modern Parent coming up is going to be all about, it's a podcast, by the way, about parenting, is going to be about how, you know, what is the new normal looking like? You know, we're 9 months in. I mean, we're midway through September. We're 100 days from Christmas. What the hell are we seriously going to enter the new year in the same confused, messy way as we've been? It worries me. It worries me. So Northeast lockdown, as we've talked about, is it a lockdown? What is a lockdown? What justifies the use of the phrase lockdown? Chris Whitty, purportedly behind the scenes, desiring a 2-week national lockdown. Here's a curious one. What do people think about e-scooters? Tell us what you think about e-scooters. Now, when me and Nadia were in Berlin, there were lots of e-scooters. Now, I've got mixed feelings about e-scooters. In Berlin, they were kind of, yeah, hit the thumbs up, guys. If there's an icon below my head or above it or somewhere, hit the thumbs up. E-scooters in Berlin, they were everywhere. They're like Boris bikes, which is what we call the London, the sort of bikes that you can just use. But yeah, Terry Jane Butler, they're bloody dangerous. Now, as a driver, I had to really struggle negotiating around one the other day. And I have to say, I don't think most people who are on them are really using them in a sort of road-aware sort of way. I'm wondering whether you need a little bit of a license or something like that. I think one of the e-scooter companies is going to issue tiny number plates for them, aren't they? I think I might. But what do you think? Too fast, dangerous? Yeah, really. Oh, that's a good point. Miss One Tricia, what about the teachers who are expected to support children's mental health issues as well as trying to educate them too? There's no extra support for their mental health and well-being. Miss One Tricia, you make a really interesting and important point there. This is kind of slightly off topic, but you raised the topic. Teachers are employed to teach. And I know that during the initial heat of the lockdown, a lot of people were saying they're the vulnerable kids, they're the poorer kids that we're worried about slipping through the system. Absolutely right. But our system, our social care system must be pretty screwed, and our socializing system must be pretty screwed if we're depending on teachers to essentially pick up what social workers should be doing. Years ago, my mum, when I was a teenager, her partner was a social worker, and it's a hard job. But is it necessary? Welcome, Crimson Sky, as a family guest. By the way, yeah, if you want to join the channel, do join. Crimson Sky has just joined. You can get a weekly Sunday show. There'll be a members live happening either tonight or tomorrow night. Might be tomorrow night because Nanny Di is popping over tomorrow. So do you know what I mean? So this idea that it's the school's job to pick up children at risk, it's not to say they shouldn't, obviously, if there are signs and symptoms, but that wasn't actually the job description of a school, was it, for a teacher? So your point is right, Miss One Tricia. Teachers are essentially picking up all of this stuff. They're picking up the mental health, they're picking up the stress, everything. Yeah, Ellen Jones, social services is fucked, not invested in. All these things have a knock-on effect, and you can see how all these things are interconnected, can't you? But just keep going to Pret-a-Manger. If we discover as a nation that a packed lunch saves us the equivalent of, I don't know, 35 quid a week, that's a good thing, isn't it? More to spend on your kids, more to spend on stuff that you need. E-scooters, Sprinkle Sparkle, they're too fast and too dangerous, definitely should have a license to ride. To be honest with you, I think most cyclists should also have a license to ride as well. I mean, I genuinely do. Oh, there you go, Chelsea girl. I think cyclists should have a license. I mean, especially around Nan, they go like the absolute clappers. And I get it. I get why they have a certain smug sort of, excitement, because of course they are doing the right thing for the environment, they're getting fit, and they're generally getting places much quicker than us drivers. But they can be irresponsible cyclists as there are irresponsible drivers. And I think, unfortunately, because the e-scooter has such a lack of, with a bike, you have to be aware of using your body. But with an e-scooter, you can sit on them. I mean, I've seen countless people just sit on them a bit like a Segway, and they just kick back, and it's like, nothing is getting in my way. And I do worry about that. Gabrielle, yes, The Fresh Prince is being rebooted. Isn't that exciting? Did anyone else see the Kanye story last night? I think his account's been suspended, hasn't it? Not for the weeing on his Grammy, but I think he posted the contact details of an executive or something like that. Sean Thomas, I've nearly been killed 3 times by them. What, an e-scooter? Yeah, they're funny things, aren't they? Now, Boris yesterday also did say, I think it was in the select committee, that he doesn't want to encourage sneak culture. So here we go. We've got Priti Patel saying, dob in everyone. And if you see anyone dobbing everyone, and if a group of 6 intercepts another group of 6 and you break the group of 6, you're breaking the rule of 6. And then you've got Boris Johnson invoking the John Belushi film, National Lampoon's Animal House. Don't dob people in unless they're having an Animal House style party. Could it get any more batshit crazy than that? Than these distinctions that they're using? So don't have an Animal House style party, but also don't bump into each other in a supermarket if you're a group of 6. Crazy shit. It's just crazy. You couldn't make it up. I was saying to someone yesterday, we had a meeting yesterday, and I was saying, there's no work for the satirists or the comedians because it's all there. I mean, we tune in to Donald Trump to have a laugh. I mean, look, personally, I hope Biden gets in. But I mean, if Biden does get in, it's going to be very, very boring, isn't it? Because where's our resident comedy? Spitting Image has got a big task on ITV to satirise this bunch. You only have to watch the news. Now you've got real life Spitting Image puppets dribbling, flapping around, bumbling like fools. I mean, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. And then you've got the opposition. Ed Miliband's the only one putting up a good enough fight. Former leader of the Labour Party. The only one who could string a sentence half together. Keir Starmer, useless. What's he waiting for? What is Keir Starmer waiting for? Why is there this idea that he's going to pounce at some point? Absolute shocker. I'm just having a little look through the other news stories this morning, just to see if anything's popped up in the meantime. Interestingly, on the Brexit front, though, here's a curious one. I wonder how many Brexiteers are feeling. I mean, I'm not saying for a minute that we don't observe the rule of it. It's been voted for. Absolutely get that. I'm not a Remainer sitting again. If we don't get a deal with the EU, trade deal, and if what Biden and Nancy Pelosi says is that we don't get a deal or the deal that we want with America, what are we going to do? Can someone please tell me what we're going to do without America and the EU as big markets? I just want to know what is the solution to those. Okay, Japan. Okay, maybe New Zealand. I don't know. New Zealand, we might have a deal. Canada, it took so. But what are we going to do without the EU and without America? The magazine The Week is asking the question, will UK schools have to close again? If they do, the best thing you can do is buy Honey, I Homeschooled the Kids, for sure. Not because it's going to get you it's going to advocate that you shouldn't go back to school. It's going to hold your hand in a compassionate and meaningful way. It's a heartfelt book all about what to do if schools do close again. And, I don't think schools are going to formally close again, but I think what we're going to have is most of them grinding to a halt because they can't be organised. Because they've got too many teachers are unable to go. So Boris is not in favour of the sneak culture. Being a fresher during coronavirus, the BBC, very tough. And yet at the same time, it just has to be done. A lot of stuff about revenge porn as well at the moment. Become a new normal after cases surge in lockdown. It's curious, isn't it? A surge in revenge porn whilst in lockdown. Just such a horrific thing, that. Such a horrific thing. So there you go. Those are the news stories for today. What do you think, guys? Are we in a batshit crazy, insane bloody narrative or what? Is it not a sad reflection on society that people even need to be dobbed in? When will people just take personal responsibility for their actions, decisions? Then it wouldn't be needed. Yeah, I agree. So do I think, and I now look at the education system in a different way after reading your book, Sprinkle Sparkle. Thank you. I mean, again, it's like Ken Robinson. In our book, we quote a lot of Ken Robinson, and sadly he died. We were going to send him a copy of our book. He died just as it was being published. But he makes a brilliant point. It's not about, the education system being reformed. It's about it being transformed. It just needs to be changed. The emphasis needs to change away from, there was another piece in Vogue magazine. Was it British Vogue, I think? Asking, is there any value to going to university anymore? Because the jobs market and the whole system has shifted so much. Obviously the creative arts have been massively hit, but if you remove all the creative arts, I promise you'll lose a hugely compassionate part of your culture. And that's not to say people not in the creative arts aren't compassionate, but within it, you know, the whole point of the creative arts is about creating fictional stories or factual stories that generate connection, analysis, communication, empathy, telling other people's stories. It's how we find out, you know, most journalists will have done an English degree. You know, so it's not just about airy-fairy, artsy types sort of standing there writing poems and not really, you know, meaningfully contributing to life, though poetry does and should. It's also, you know, these, if you remove all of these elements, you won't have much television. I mean, dare I say that a lot of television journalism or television news now is just driven by the algorithms and clickbait rather than actually piercingly analytical brains? That's my worry. Anyway, hit the thumbs up, guys. Hit the thumbs up. Lynn Aoki, Mark, can you let Nads know that my WeScon Robin is doing really well, and thanks for the support from everybody on here. It means a lot. Lynn, I will extend that absolutely. We are recording our new podcast later today. I think Nadia's posted something on her Insta stories. It's about empty nest syndrome. So if you've got any thoughts on that, the highs, the lows, the fears, the worries, the feelings that your child, your teenager leaving home, it's a very emotional moment for a lot of people. You know, your kids leaving home. It leaves a huge gaping hole. It leaves a different dynamic for the relationship. Go and share your thoughts on Nadia Sawalha's Instagram page. I'll put something up on my Instagram page, Mark_Adderley. You can pop something there and we will probably read out some of your comments. We really love your interactivity with our podcast, and we read out a lot of your thoughts and a lot of your ideas. Okay, fluffy bollocks. Brilliant, Ellen Jones. Love fluffy bollocks. I'm going to take my fluffy bollocks and I'm going to go and attack the day. Lots of love, guys. Have a good day. Bye.